Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have such an exciting announcement, and I apologize for this video in advance because I'm so excited about it that I sort of can't talk. It's also 104 degrees out, which makes it hard to focus. So today I have the most amazing announcement. My Tumbleweed tiny house is almost done, and it has been 8 years in the making. I am so proud of this accomplishment, not because I have really accomplished anything, but because the community that supported me and helped me go through the design process and the idea process and the build process has just, it's been overwhelming, and I've really never been part of a community that shares so many of the same values and so many of the same goals in their lives. I wanted to share with everyone the process that it took for me to be inspired by a tiny house all the way to actually getting it built. 8 years ago when I was 16, I found a Tumbleweed tiny house pamphlet type thing on my kitchen table. And this was way back when their booklet looked sort of like a glorified magazine. And it had images of their different options of tiny houses. And they are on wheels because you can't build anything under 300 square feet on a foundation in the United States, which is not a cool rule. I found this book on the kitchen table and I brought it to my room, stole it from my sister, of course. For years, I watched the tiny house movement evolve. So the designs evolved, the types of people that were picking tiny houses evolved, the reasons that people were living in them evolved. And it was so fun to watch because people went from having these pretty basic sort of shed-like designs to these really intricate, multi-functioned spaces. It is incredible the functionality that people can get out of these houses and still make them look gorgeous. About 3 years ago, I decided that I was ready to commit to my tiny house. I had purchased the designs from Tumbleweed Tiny House for a typical Cypress, and I was going to build it myself. I had taken the class with Tumbleweed Tiny House to learn how to build it myself. And then when I looked at my time commitment, I actually realized that while I could probably get it done, it would be a steep learning curve, and also the materials would be sitting outside in California heat a lot of the time. I did have the space to build it, but just barely the amount of space. So the materials would have to sit inside the tiny house while I was building it. There was no space to build on the ground to put up the walls. You have to build the walls on the ground and then lift them up onto the tiny house. The problem with that was that I didn't have enough space to have the trailer there and also build the tiny house walls on the ground, so I would have had to build them upwards instead of doing sort of a barn raising style, and that was a problem. But my biggest concern was having the materials sitting outside and being damaged over a long period of time because I didn't have the time to commit to just get the project done. Realistically, one person building a tiny house takes 6 months to a year to just be able to move in, let alone doing the fine details. I tried to be gutsy and I purchased the trailer and the plans and I put it outside my house, and then after a few months I realized that there was just no way I could find the time commitment. Luckily, I hadn't purchased the materials because I was waiting for that time gap, and what ended up happening was I sent the trailer back to Tumbleweed Tiny House and they agreed to build the house for me. And of course I have to pay them extra to build it for me, but at least they were able to reuse the trailer for that. That made it so the trailer wasn't a wasted expense for me. After that, we designed for another year. I had 3 designers there help me on the project, as well as multiple people that weren't designers at Tumbleweed Tiny House who were giving me input and ideas. The result was an amazing plan, which I will talk about in my next video. It is one of the only tiny houses on wheels that I have seen that has a full-size bathtub and a farm sink. I am so excited to share it with everyone, and I'm going to put it in my next video. If you want to watch it, it will be linked down below. Originally, I was going to have a tiny house so that when I was finished with college, I could drive wherever I want, get a job wherever I wanted, and still be able to have a home that really felt like home. The reason I was so inspired by the tiny house movement was because tiny houses allow you to take opportunities and try new things very easily while bringing your home with you. So I was hoping to move around in my tiny house after I left college and be able to try different jobs and live in different places and experience new things without leaving my home behind. I did hit a road bump in this plan, which means that the tiny house will be used for a different purpose. And the road bump was that a home for me is no longer just a space. It is me with my 2 cats and my 2 dogs and my boyfriend and sometimes his kids and often his family and my family. So the location matters for us too, as well as being able to have all of those people in our home. So the tiny house really isn't feasible for all 4 humans and 4 animals to live in, but it still does give us that flexibility to try new opportunities. The tiny house, however, is still the best option out there in my opinion for us, because now we can move the tiny house to a place that we want to live, and I would like to start a farm and an organic cafe there. The goal is to have a community around food and around the essential things in life, like food and water and caring about each other and family and things like that. And that's something that is so beautiful to me, and the tiny house makes it so that we can do that. So my goal when I leave college is to find a place to put the tiny house, a piece of land, and either restore the houses that are already on that property, the house, the barn, whatever is on there, or to build our own. Sort of stripping away the superficiality that I feel that I've inherited in my life by growing up in a more superficial environment, growing up in New York City and now living in California. I really have been surrounded by superficiality, but there are so many incredible people out there that have the same feeling as me, including in New York and including in California. So I'm hoping that we can bring the tiny house to a place where we can farm and where we can be the center of that community. Not us, but what we create can be the center and the thing that draws everyone in to become a community. So I am very proud to announce formally to you guys that my tiny house is almost done, and I'm going to share the plans in my next video. So many people have been so supportive of my tiny house idea and my tiny house values that I am hoping to pass that on to other people. Thank you everyone who has been involved in the idea phase, the design phase, and the build phase of my tiny house. Thank you really from the bottom of my heart. This means a lot to me, and if you're new to the tiny house movement, welcome to it, and everyone in the tiny house community will welcome you with open arms. So I hope you have the same amazing experience as I did coming into the community. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll put the plans in my next video. Bye. Eyebrows make me so intense. So intense. You have to trust me because I have big eyebrows. Okay, back to sanity. Focus.